Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode, and we are going to talk a little bit more about sleep with Kris, who is here, and I'm going to be asking him some questions. So welcome, Kris. Thanks for jumping on for my questions. So tell me a little bit about you. How did you get into coaching? What type of clients you coach?
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Victoria, for having me on. Really looking forward to this. I'm Kris. I'm an online coach and been doing it for sort of 3 to 4 years now. My sort of background is in martial arts originally. Has been sort of my main sort of interest since being a teenager. That developed as I got older into sort of gym-based training as well. Eventually did my personal training qualification, and then started to work more on the sort of body composition side. So actually how nutrition and other aspects help people outside of gym training as well. Alongside that, I've also had an IT career, full-time day job in IT. And as I've gone more into coaching, helping other people in professional roles who might struggle with their health and fitness, has been able to help me kind of draw on that experience. And that's the type of clients that I now work with my online coaching.
So what kind of struggles do your clients have then, if they're like mainly like office-based 9-to-5 workers?
Well, particularly coming from the sort of COVID period and the pandemic, where a lot of people's habits and I guess their lifestyle has had to change. A lot of the people I've been working with sort of over the last couple of years have been those who are either working from home or hybrid working, and have I guess because of stress either with their job or everything else, and kind of just battled through the last couple of years, maybe let some of their other habits slip that they were previously doing. So a lot of people that I work with at the moment have been working from home, potentially not been as active, put some weight on, wanting to get healthier and fitter. And as part of my coaching with them, I really try and look at their sort of overall lifestyle in general, so that, although they might come with that focus, actually being healthier and improving their overall lifestyle for the long term is quite a focus. So things like sleep is definitely important to that.
Yeah, obviously we are talking about sleep today predominantly. So what kind of struggles do you find with sleep? Do you find that people that work 9-to-5 will like push through during the week and just like cope with whatever sleep and then try and catch up on the weekend? Is that kind of like the pattern that they like to do, or do you find different things?
100%. I think that people, particularly the type of clients that I work with, who are on the go all day, and then, as I mentioned, those that work from home, sometimes there's no separation between what they're doing with their sort of job, and then it just blends into home life. And like I say, people just have a tendency to power through the day and week and almost kind of live for the weekend and have this big release, and then that then sets their cycle out for kind of the week ahead, and kind of get caught in this endless cycle of just trying to kind of power through all the time. And yeah, that's looking at that is a key part of coaching, and I'd imagine the same with your clients as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I've done like bars and restaurant work for like 20 odd years, and so I've never had that weekend. Like my weekend was a Tuesday and a Wednesday, so I've never had that kind of mentality of oh, it's Monday morning, and I've got to get up early and I'm sleep deprived. I would be doing different shifts, different times, different hours. So obviously sleep deprivation kind of comes with that as well. And it's only from focusing on my sleep myself personally that I've kind of realized how important sleep is. But I guess people just think, oh, yeah, on the weekend, I want to catch up on the sleep and have a lie in. And then they get out of that sleep routine and that sleep pattern. So where they were getting up at, say 7, half 7 in the morning, they're now going, oh, well, I'll lie in till, say, 10 a.m. And then it comes to Monday morning and your body is out of whack because you've pushed it into that sleep cycle for 5 days. It's just getting used to it. And then on the weekend, they think, oh, throw it all out the window, and then try and get it back on track. And like you said, it's that vicious cycle. So how do you kind of coach clients with that, who have that mentality of, oh, it's Friday, I can have a late night and then get up late on Saturday?
Well, I think the first thing is that no one really promotes attention to sleep or having enough sleep or good quality sleep, particularly with what's on social media and everything you see online. It's all about the CEO life of work, powering through and almost
all that,
yeah, exactly, and almost that yeah, exactly, and almost that less sleep is better. You're going to be more productive, and it's just not the case.
No.
Sleep is so underrated. It's something that most people don't even think about, and I certainly didn't. It's just something that you do and kind of accept. If you don't get a great sleep, you just kind of, I guess, just as I mentioned before, just keep powering through. Whereas when you actually look into the role sleep plays and the amount of functions it does kind of behind the scenes, it really is kind of eye-opening, the amount of internal biological processes, both physical and mental, that it helps with. And by not paying attention to that, someone is never going to be as productive or perform as well as they can. So with the type of clients that I work with, again, who either work in an office or at home, and have that tendency to power through, a lot of the time there's no differentiation between their working day and an evening routine. So the first kind of quick win is getting someone to really draw the line between the end of their working day and the start of their evening routine. So this could be things like having a change of clothes after work, having a change of environment, so getting out for some fresh air or a walk, or doing some exercise, anything that's going to kind of turn their mind off from all them thoughts that they've got caught up doing during the day. And straight away, that's then going to hopefully set the scene for their evening routine. Again, people have a tendency, if you have access to emails or anything from work, people have a tendency to kind of take that home with them and through the evening still be checking emails or sitting on technology. So again, as hard as it is,
I was bad at that as a manager, because like obviously bars are open, not 24/7, but they're open for a good 16 hours a day. And you weren't there 16 hours a day. So when you weren't there, you're like, oh, send me all the emails. The area manager might have sent something out, and like you say, you can be guilty of staying in that work mode for longer than you need to.
100%. And like you mentioned, if you're still checking emails well into the evening, that's all stimulation. It's setting them thoughts in motion about what you might have to be doing the next day, or if there's a problem with something, and it's just not going to help you wind down for sleeping. So that's limiting that technology and having that separation between your work day and your evening routine is so important. And even particularly if you have a health and fitness related goal, forcing yourself to have that change of environment, get some fresh air, not just from the physical side of it, of getting some activity in, but it's almost a bit of a mental reset as well. Just that change of environment, fresh air, listen to some music, phone a friend, anything that's going to sort of help switch off, and even go and do some exercise as well. So it's particularly the type of clients that I work with who probably haven't moved much during the day. Going doing some exercise is getting the body moving. We're not designed just to go from sitting at a desk to sitting on the sofa all night. So it's going doing some exercise or training, even just a walk, is going to make a big difference to help unwind from the day, both mentally and physically.
Yeah, and I think COVID and lockdowns kind of forced us into more of that, of sitting down at a desk all day, sitting at your sofa, lying in bed. I think as a society, we probably became a bit more sedentary through the lockdown process, because it was all, let's watch Netflix, let's watch a film, stay at home. And, you know, and I always say to clients, like, how important is that extra show on Netflix compared to your sleep? And I do the same with my clients, of having like a wind down bedtime routine. And I say it can start anytime during the day. So I stop drinking caffeinated drinks at, say, like 3 p.m. unless I know I'm going to be up late for whatever reason. Like 3 p.m. is kind of my cut off. And if someone says, do you want a coffee? I immediately look at my watch and go, yes or no. Like, that's a deciding factor. And it's, you know, rather than being, oh, do I really want one? It's like, what time is it? So the time governs obviously my caffeine. The same with my phone, because I've got an iPhone. You can put it into like sleep mode, you can turn off notifications, you can put it on night mode. So at 8 p.m, my screen goes like that little bit darker, so it's not the blue light emitting. At 9 p.m, all notifications go off. And then at 10 o'clock, it goes into sleep mode. So I've set that on my phone, like you say, because you've got those distractions, whether that's emails, texts. Obviously for us, it could be things like Instagram messages or client messages. You know, not that there's anything wrong with someone messaging you at that time, but you don't want to be in that reactive state. You want to start kind of winding down, and how people's bedtime routine looks can be completely different. And I say to use like external things as well. So like my phone, it goes through different settings at different times to kind of remind me it's getting close to bedtime. I've got a lamp that's on like a timer that goes off at 9:15, and I go, right, it's 9:15. Do I want to start getting ready for bed, start putting my pajamas on, brushing my teeth, all that sort of thing, to get in bed for 10? Or do I want to watch an extra episode or stay up a bit later? And then it's about making that decision, and the light turning off is my trigger, because you can get so absorbed into what you're doing or what you're watching, and, you know, just neglect your sleep. And like you say, sometimes you think, oh, it's only an extra hour, but like the impact it has on you, like the next day, and how you feel is just crazy. Yeah,
no, some brilliant points you made there, and a couple that stand out is, one particular is our body likes routine. So, you know, I know in hospitality, you know, there'll be different shift patterns that maybe don't help with that, but where you can, having that regular bedtime and wake up time, you know, even kind of on your days off, just, you know, your body likes routine, and will help with that. And one thing you mentioned at the start is, you know, what you don't want to do is completely change that on your days off and shift everything back. Otherwise you just get caught up in the same cycle again. And that's when people turn to caffeine, which you mentioned as well. And people then are pumping themselves full of stimulants to get through the day, and then always kind of masking the underlying problem, which is just actually getting a more sensible routine, and not having to rely on that. The life of caffeine is actually far longer than I thought it was. And, you know, even 12 hours later, you know, you still have some caffeine in your system, which, if you are someone who's very sensitive to caffeine, you know, will affect your sleep quality 100%.
Yeah, and I say that to clients, like, as much as you think, oh, I can have a coffee, or even alcohol as well, you know, you might be able to sleep, might be able to get to sleep, but you don't get into that deep sleep. And some people use alcohol to help with sleep, and it's like, yeah, it might help you get to sleep, but you're not getting into that deep sleep. So the next day you're not going to feel as rested. The same, you know, if you've got caffeine in your system, it could be disrupting that sleep, and then you wake up, you feel groggy, you feel tired, you're not rested, you hit that caffeine, and you're just in that cycle all the time. And, you know, I was guilty of it for years. You know, if you get a pint glass, put half Coke, half Red Bull, I mean, that is like rocket fuel. And I honestly, if you're super tired, it's great.
I've tried that one.
No, honestly, so when I worked in bars and restaurants, and when I was doing like long shifts over Christmas, someone told me about it, and I was like, again, I had that caffeine rule of midnight. Even when I was up till like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, my rule was midnight, before I even knew, really. But I knew it disrupted my sleep. I didn't know obviously the hows and whys, but I knew it did. So I'd have that midnight cutoff point. But yeah, half Coke and half Red Bull. I don't know why the mixture together, but it's like loopy juice, honestly. But it tastes all right, actually. It doesn't taste too bad. But again, you know, if you're hitting that caffeine all the time, you're never getting it out of your system. And where I've got days where I might not necessarily need as much caffeine, I try and just have 1 or 2. I will generally only have 3 in a day. And again, it's about creating these rules for yourself. So, you know, I'm not going to say to clients, oh, you should do this. But like you say, caffeine's got a half-life of 6 hours. So in 6 hours time, you've still got half that amount of caffeine in your system. And that is going to disrupt your sleep. And I educate my clients in a little bit of the science behind it of, you know, adenosine is a thing that makes you sleeper, and it binds to the same receptors in the brain as caffeine. So if caffeine's on it, the adenosine can't get on to say that you're sleeping, you know, and it's masking that. And then when you power yourself through with loads of caffeine and then stop it, and then the adenosine kind of has that chance to jump onto that receptor, you know, you get that caffeine crash in the afternoon, you know, and you just got, again, you know, going in that vicious cycle, and it's just affecting your sleep. And the more you manipulate with caffeine, the worse it's making your sleep, and it's just going round in circles all the time.
And like you say, it's just masking the underlying issue. And I think a lot of the time it's just people just get caught in habits, you know, having a coffee on the morning, or any caffeinated drink during the day, or you know, people think they need a Red Bull to get through the evening, or whatever it is. I think a lot of the time it's just habits and associations people have built up that they don't even really kind of think about anymore. It's just part of their routine. Whereas hopefully things like this will, you know, if someone does sort of struggle with sleep, or they're waking up feeling tired and groggy, and know their sleep and their sleep quality could be better, you know, everything that we're talking about here, you know, there's a lot that people can try, and like anything, trying to change everything all at once can be quite overwhelming. But, you know, if you're someone who has a lot of caffeine during the day, really reducing that down can make a difference. And the other thing linked to caffeine as well, which I was meant to mention, is if you're someone who struggles with sort of anxiety, or being able to sort of, you know, switch off mentally as well, caffeine will really heighten that. Even from my own experience, if I've ever been feeling sort of anxious, and I've had a lot of caffeine, it definitely makes it worse. And then having the after effects of that, trying to wind down to sleep, just makes it so much harder. So, you know, again, it's just interesting how, you know, something like that can affect other things as well.
Like you say, though, it's habits and routines that are ingrained in your lifestyle, and it's just what you do. And trying to change anything, like especially if you're on a health and fitness journey, you know, you're already trying to change a few different things, and taking away like delicious food that you've enjoyed, and having to cut calories, or get extra exercise in, whatever it might be. If then someone's saying, oh, actually, you need to go to bed earlier, you need to stop having a coffee late at night, you know, it's hard because people don't like change to a certain extent. And like I say, you know, I've got all these rules in place of things that I do. Like, I didn't just wake up one day and go, oh, it'd be a good idea to set my lamp on a timer and do all these things on my phone and have certain things going on. It's like, it was just one thing was added, and then another thing was added, and then another thing was added. And before you know it, it becomes your routine. And like I said, I just have a rule, and it's easy. It's like people that do intermittent fasting. It's not that they're not hungry in the morning. They just go, oh, can't eat till 12 o'clock, because they believe that that is what is going to work, and that's the rule, and it's just 12 o'clock. So you kind of have to do the same with looking after your sleep. And something I heard from another coach years ago that I worked with in the gym, and he was like, oh, you know, you need to protect your energy. And so like, I really kind of took that on board. And so for the past like 3-4 years, I've just protected my energy and protected my sleep, because I know how I feel on less amounts of sleep. You know, I know how productive I am. I know when I'm most productive. And I guess some people are, you know, morning larks, and some people are night owls, and doing a 9-to-5 job, I bet that's a bit frustrating if you are generally like a night owl, because you're being forced into that morning lark. And like you say, you know, on your days off, you want to slip back into that routine. And it's so important to try and stay in that routine, whether, you know, it's a weekend, during the week, or whatever, because the more you take yourself out of the routine, it's harder to get back into it again. And I bet you know, experience a lot of clients that are struggling with that all the time.
100%. And you know, like I mentioned earlier, people just have a tendency to power through and kind of think, you know, it don't really address it, you know, because it's such a natural process that we do, and such a seemingly small part of everything else, without really digging down into kind of the role that sleep plays behind the scenes. Unless you really address it, you probably won't really know the difference it can make you feel.
I think people think sleep's just something you do, like it's just one of those things.
It is, and I don't think people really see the effects that a lack of sleep has over time, and you know, particularly with you know, even in the type of clients that you work with in hospitality or mine with sort of 9 to 5 and office space, you know, a lack of sleep over time can have an effect on someone's health, and the kind of the choices that they'll make around the key areas of their nutrition, activity, and training will be affected, sort of negatively, to the point that maybe people become unhealthier, make choices that aren't going to help them aspects as much. But likewise, when you reach a point that you want to turn all that around and get healthier, fitter, you know, maybe lose weight and improve your lifestyle, sleep is such a key part of that. Because, you know, if you wake up feeling tired and groggy, you know, straight away, you know, having that motivation and that drive to want to improve all of that at the start of the day isn't going to be as high as it could if you wake up feeling refreshed, sort of ready to attack the day. And then as the day goes on, in terms of being more active, you know, making sure you're hitting your steps, making sure you're you know, you're going to get your training sessions in and keep your nutrition on track. As soon as, you know, you're tired and groggy and back to that trying to power through the day, them areas are never going to be as efficient as they could be.
Like your decision making abilities go down throughout the day anyway, and you know, if you start off in a sleep deprived state, you're not going to make the best decisions for your health and fitness. You're not, you know, if you're a little bit more tired, a bit more fatigued, relying on caffeine, you're not going to get your steps in, because your brain automatically will tell you to take the escalator rather than the stairs, or go in the lift, or stand still, or sit down. Like, your brain is very clever, you know, it will try and conserve energy. And if you're in a deficit as well, your body's already trying to conserve energy because it knows you're in a deficit, so it's going to do that twice as much. And you know, those habits and routines that you might have had, you'll be like, oh, actually, I'll skip the gym tonight, I'm really tired. And you know, just from not having enough sleep, it can then make you feel hungrier because it upregulates your hunger hormone ghrelin, and then you reach for those highly palatable foods, you know, and it can just mess things up so much. And it's crazy. Like, until I started looking into it, I thought, oh, you know, sleep, yeah, it's great, makes you feel good, but like you say, it just has that massive knock-on effect to your health and fitness journey without you even realizing that the decisions you're making are coming from lack of sleep, or the actions you're taking are coming from lack of sleep. It is absolutely crazy.
100%. And yeah, when it comes to improving all of that, you know, even if you're making your best effort to tick all them other boxes, you know, if in yourself you know that area isn't as good as it could be, it will just make everything else even better. You know, even if you're still managing to, you know, power through a gym workout, you know, the effort is never going to be as good as it could be if you're refreshed and feeling ready to go for it. Otherwise, like you say, you're just kind of powering through to with the effort you can to then start the cycle again. So you know, it really will improve sort of every area of the process.
And I think a few more companies are kind of getting on board with the fact that sleep is important. So like Apple Watch and Fitbits will record your sleep, and have done for quite a while now. But then there's like the Whoop band that tests your readiness score the next day, and obviously that bases on your sleep and your heart rate variability. The same with like the Oura Ring now, you know, all these new wearable technologies that are being used in sports performance as well. So it's just going to show that actually being ready for the day, being well rested, and obviously your heart rate variability and things like that, because the Oura Ring and the Whoop don't measure steps as far as I'm aware. You know, these technologies now that are not cheap, they're quite expensive. I don't have either for that reason, you know, they're quite expensive. But they are now monitoring how ready you are for the next day and whether you can do a training session, especially like sports professionals as well.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot there, and there's a lot, you know, you mentioned sort of in terms of technology, there's a lot you can use apps and things for to help get to sleep as well. So though there's, you know, the tech that can, you know, monitor the quality of your sleep. You know, you've got things like your wake up alarms to you know, make sure you're waking up at the right sort of point in your sleep cycle, that help. There's all sorts of apps to help actually drift off to sleep with kind of like guided meditation and relaxing playlists to kind of help get to sleep as well. So, you know, there is sort of more and more, I think, to kind of help both with the sort of wind down to get to sleep, and also sort of analyzing the quality of the sleep as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I recommend to my clients either like the Calm, the Headspace, or the Balance app, which are all like meditations. They all have like different sleep sounds, or, you know, different things that you can do either during the day or in the evening. And I find that they massively helped me to get my sleep on track. And sometimes I try and go to sleep without it and go, oh no, I'll just go to sleep without it. And I'm going, no, I need it on. And it's, I don't actually do the meditation because people will probably think, oh, she does all this. Like, I don't actually do the meditation. I just use it to refocus my mind away from what I'm thinking about, whether that's like, you know, like thinking about work, my coaching or something. And it's just to refocus their mind away. And people that either do work at home or, you know, have got a busy, like high pressure job, you know, you're constantly going to be thinking, tomorrow in work I need to do this, or did I make the right decision, did I send that person that email? You know, you constantly, your brain's going, and unless you switch it off, you can't go to sleep. So I definitely put one of the Balance meditations on and just listen to that. Sometimes I'll put the rain noise on and just use that. And what do you do personally? Like, do you have like a wind down routine? Is there anything specific that you do?
Yes, I just from what you were saying, you know, there's so many different things, and you know, not what works for one person might not work for someone else. So the thing I'd say to people is just, you know, try everything that we're talking about. Just try something and see if it makes a difference. For myself, I think the biggest thing is turning off tech and that stimulation, particularly with work, and having that cut off point. If ever I struggle with sleep, generally it'll be when I've still been checking emails or trying to finish a piece of work, and it's literally like someone's got my mind and give it a rev, and I'm going to sleep just thinking of things. And in the past, it's, you know, it's actually kind of almost turned into like an insomnia when you wired yourself, and you've done it to yourself with not switching off. Whereas once I have that cut off point, although I might still be watching some TV, you know, it isn't as close up as a laptop or a phone. You know, I'll generally then just start falling asleep, just watching TV, and then just go to bed. So I think that definite kind of cut off point between, you know, the work day and active technology and the doing of things to give your body actual chance to wind down and switch off is important as well. And as I mentioned before, the kind of the stages for me is one, that separation between the work day and, you know, home life and your evening routine is important. So the things that I mentioned about, you know, change of clothes, because, you know, for my day job, you know, I will still work from home. So again, just changing out of my work clothes into something else, going doing some training helps that separation. Then the sort of wind down routine that I mentioned with the tech. So you know, the turning off the laptop, not checking the emails, and then there's the sort of environment aspect as well. So having a hot shower or a hot bath, anything to actually sort of help unwind, you know, that really helps me. And also one thing I used to do is watch TV in bed and just watch TV for hours before going to sleep. Whereas now I don't do that. I have I'll watch it in the living room, and then when I go to bed, it's to go to bed, and just that sort of separation and that association of them stages of having the wind down period, start to relax, feeling relaxed, and then I'm going to go to bed, I'm off to sleep, and that kind of helps keep me in a routine. And it's when I sort of start to deviate from that, that if I don't get a good sleep, which sometimes happens, life happens, and the stress that sometimes you need to do that extra bit of work, that's generally where it will be.
Yeah, and I think during COVID, like a lot of advice I gave to my clients was defining the spaces in your home. And especially if, like you say, you are working from home or you're doing some kind of work from home, you don't want to be working on the sofa or working in the bedroom, because they need to be dedicated spaces for relaxing, chilling out, enjoying the evening. Yeah. And rather than, like you say, going from this to this, and just changing your clothes makes a massive difference. So like you say, if people are working from home and they might not necessarily have to wear office wear, but then they could have certain clothes that they associate with being in work. So they can go, right, okay, this is my work stuff. Even though it might not be too dissimilar to what they want to wear every day, because it doesn't need to be. Like you say, just having that different type of clothing or different area, different space in the home that's defined for certain things. Because if you do everything all in one space, the lines get blurred and there's not that certain cut-off point. And your brain kind of can't then go, oh, we're winding down now. Because if you constantly work on the sofa with your laptop, your brain does never see that area as a relaxing environment. Or same if you worked in your bedroom, it wouldn't seem as a relaxing environment, because you've got your laptop or you work in that area, and you're then trying to wind down, but you're thinking about work because your brain associates that space with work.
100%. Yeah. And anything that involves, I know some people will say, don't watch, even TV isn't great for you, but at least it's not actively doing something with, like you would be like scrolling or, with something that's a lot sort of closer to your face. But, and even just, things like social media, all it takes is for you to, see something or someone post something that triggers you, and then straight away all them thoughts are going to be whizzing around your mind when you're then trying to kind of go to sleep. So, really reducing sort of stimulation from any tech is going to help people.
Yeah, and like I said, I put do not disturb on at 9 o'clock, and then my phone goes into sleep mode at 10 o'clock. And I used to do that all the time. Like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd pick my phone up to check the time, and I'd see all these notifications or someone's messaging me, and it just, your brain goes, oh, what was that? And you then like, oh, I can't reply because it's 1:30 in the morning, but I'm really annoyed by what this person's just sent me, or someone's or whatever. So by not being able to see the notifications because my phone's in sleep mode, just makes a massive difference. And like you say, it's not getting you to be reactive when you should be kind of sleeping. And it's whatever you can put in place. Like obviously we're just suggesting things, it's about taking all the information and going, what will work in my life? If you've got someone that relies on you and they might need to give you a phone call in the middle of the night, turning your notifications off and put your phone on silent might not be something that you can do. But it's about working the things in that will work for you in your life, just to make it easier. Because as we said, sleep is just so important for so many different factors that people just don't realize.
Definitely. And even the environment as well, a lot of what we've spoke about is leading up to sort of going to bed and creating the right environment leading up to sleep. But even in where your bed is as well, making sure the temperature of your room is suitable. Even your bed, if you're someone who struggles to sleep, some people will keep hold of the never change the bed or the mattress, pillows, the smell of your room, if you've got like clothes drying, or make sure there's fresh air in there. Just little things like that can make the difference as well. Whether there's a street light kind of coming through the window, that could be stimulating or disturbing sleep as well. So sometimes just the environment you're trying to go to sleep in is just as important.
Yeah, massive. And I bought a sleep mask last year, but then I never really used it before it went dark again. So it'd be interesting to see, because like you say, my curtains are quite thin. So as soon as the sun comes through in the morning, it's keeping you awake, or the same at night if I'm trying to go to bed earlier. So it'll be interesting to see about using the sleep mask. But like say, bedroom environment is massive. We need to kind of drop our heart rate, so we need to not be stimulated by all these things to be able to go to sleep. We need a slightly lower body temperature, so again, a cool environment. I don't have my radiator on that high in the bedroom really. If I want some heat, I'll just open the door and get it in that way. Like I say, a dark environment definitely helps, and a quiet environment to a certain extent, depending if you want meditation on or a noise or something. But yeah, definitely setting up that bedroom environment as well, to when you get in that environment, it's then like gonna help you get to sleep.
Yeah. So how is your sleep in general? What helps you the most, would you say?
I think having all those little things, so like say 9 o'clock notifications going off my phone, 10 o'clock it goes into sleep mode. Sometimes I'll turn it off if I need it back off again or whatever, if I'm out, for an example. Not going to leave it in sleep mode on a night out. But yeah, just doing all those things and knowing that a Netflix show isn't going to massively help me. Having that wind down time and trying to get in bed for 9:30 to be asleep for 10. I know any less than 7 hours, you don't want to talk to me. Like I hate having less than 7 hours. I just get tired, groggy, I get snappy, I get hungry. So I know that having less than 7 hours, I'm just one of those people that needs a bit more sleep anyway. So I'll try and aim for like 8 hours of sleep. Sometimes I'll get 9 and I don't have any ill effects. My body just really likes to sleep. When I did different shifts, I used to nap in the afternoon. I used to love a good nap. And obviously naps can massively help as well, especially if you are sleep deprived and you just need that extra little bit of a kick. But yeah, since prioritizing my sleep and knowing what it's going to do for me and how I feel, having a good sleep routine and getting good sleep just enables me to do even more than I could have done a few years ago, just by getting a good amount of sleep. And because I used to be like a size 18 to 20 and obviously lost weight, my appetite is still up there. Like it's not left me just because I've lost the weight. So I know if I'm sleep deprived, my hunger ramps up, and it is like I can't cure the hunger. So again, for me, especially in a dieting phase, I know that sleep is going to help with that hunger. Again, it's going to help me make better decisions. It's going to make sure that I'm not reliant on caffeine throughout the day. I do love a coffee, but you don't want to be reliant on caffeine throughout the day. So right now, if anyone asks me, what is your priority in life? Sleep is at the top. And then calories and steps would probably be the next one. Like sleep is my number one thing. And I think the more you try and protect it, the more, like I said, like protecting my energy and putting everything around it, whether I decide to do something or not, is whether I'm going to get a good night's sleep. I mean, I'm not boring, don't get me wrong, but if it's going to have an impact on my sleep, I might not necessarily want to do it. If it's not really important to me. And like I say, staying up for an extra show or something is not necessarily important. So I just think having it as my number one priority in my life has just made it be a number one priority. And like I said, steps and calories are kind of behind that, and then everything else kind of falls way behind it.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I think like you sort of mentioned that a lot of at a base level, people know more sleep is going to be better for them, but they don't really appreciate the actual impact it has until they improve it. For exactly all the reasons you mentioned. Yeah.
And like I try and educate clients into giving them all this information so then they can make the decision. It's like I've always tracked my sleep as whenever I've had a Fitbit. I've now got an Apple Watch. I'm interested in data. Like I really like numbers and data, and the information, and listening to your body and going, how do I feel after this amount of sleep? And I can sit here and say, after poor sleep, this is how I feel. If I have less than 7 hours, I'm shocking. If I have 7.5, I need 8. But I only know that from analysing how I feel and through looking at the data that I've got on my phone and stuff, and thinking, right, how do I feel? How am I productively and stuff? And the same detail I go into my clients with like the menstrual cycle. And, if you don't track it, if you don't write down how you feel, you're not going to know. And if you don't know, you then can counteract how you're going to feel for whatever reason. So I know if I don't get good sleep, I'm then going to make poor food choices. And I've got to tell myself all day, you just want this because you're tired. You just want this because you're tired. And in a dieting phase, that's important to know that you're not going, oh, I'm starving, I must need food, my body's telling me. You can go, actually, it's from the poor night's sleep. So I just need to push through and get through the day. If I need a bit of extra food, okay, have it. Try and make mindful choices, and do it that way. But if you don't know your sleep numbers and how you feel and when you're rested and when you're not, you can't make those decisions, and you can't know what to do for the best.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you say that, even especially in a dieting phase, it's so much more important, because then impulses are going to be higher. So it is important, and like you mentioned about sort of tracking that data, the other important thing is making sure you do something with it as well, because I know so many people that have all the tech and all the watches and Fitbits and things, and have this data but don't do anything with it. And they can see there's a pattern there that they might be having disturbed sleep or not the best quality sleep, but they're not going through them processes in their routine to say, okay, what am I doing straight after work? What's my evening routine like? What am I doing leading up to going to bed, and then and checking that environment as well. It's just because, as just having data is great, but unless you do something with it, like you mentioned, it's useless.
Yeah, and it's about taking that information and then acting upon it, and then making those small changes, whatever tiny changes they might be, then assessing it again. Do you need to make more changes? And some people might only need to make a small slight change to get better sleep. It might be so simple, whereas some people might have to upheave everything they do and completely throw everything out the window and start again. But having a great sleep pattern and a great sleep routine is only beneficial. Like there's no negatives to it, so it's worth doing for everyone. So it's been absolutely great having you on, and I'm sure my clients are going to enjoy this conversation. Is there any last parting little tips you want to give, or anything we've not covered?
I think the other thing I was just going to mention that just came to me is a lot of what we've sort of spoken about, I guess, is sort of leading up to sleep. Whereas if you're someone who can kind of get to sleep but just can't improve that quality, and it's disturbed, that could be through insomnia. Some people have sort of night terrors and nightmares. Just can't shake that anxiety. People might have a problem with snoring or sleep apnea. So if you're someone who potentially has something that really is affecting sleep, then go to a professional or a therapist for that area and get help with it. Because again, a lot of people might have just try and power through without really addressing it. So although with our advice, there's lots of things that can certainly help, leading up to sleep, and some things to think about improving the quality. If there really is something kind of deeper there that needs addressing, definitely go to someone to get help with that.
Yeah, definitely. And I always say that to all my clients regarding anything. We're here giving as much in-depth information as we can, but if there's a problem that is not being fixed by our solutions, then definitely go and see a GP or a sleep specialist or whatever it is, because some people just go, oh, I've got this problem, and just accept it as part of them. And 9 times out of 10 you can probably fix it with something,
100%.
or with some help, whether it's some counseling, some guidance, or some short-term medication or something. But yeah, like you say, if you're struggling to stay asleep, don't just think, oh, I've tried all these things that they've said, I've tried the meditation, I get to sleep, but then I only get 3 to 4 hours. Like, that is going to be detrimental to your health of having not enough sleep. So definitely
100%.
Seeking advice, for sure. Definitely someone more knowledgeable than me.
But I'm sure it all helps, and I think the main thing is that if someone's waking up tired and groggy, just there's something that can be done, and it's just a case of working through all the processes and tips that we've covered.
And I think there's nothing worse than feeling really tired. Like, I mean, probably feeling ill, that's worse, but like just feeling tired all the time, like it drains you and it gets you down. And there's so many things that you can do to kind of fix that and feel better about it. So,
just puts a downer on the day before you've even started, doesn't it? If you're waking up feeling tired and groggy, feeling like you haven't slept, how are you ever going to be as productive or get out the day what you can, feeling like that at the start? It just shouldn't be the case. So it's just figuring out at what point you can improve it.
So that was great. So just tell my clients where they can find you on Instagram, or if you've got a website or anything.
So I'm Coach Kris, and you can find me on Instagram, Coach by Kris, with a K, because I'm Kris with a K, and I have a website, kbkfitness.co.uk. Yeah,
that's great. Thanks for jumping on. I'm sure there was lots of nuggets of information there for my clients, and I'll speak to you soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me.